is 5:30. We'll call the select board meeting for December 17th, 2025 to order. Let's see, pursuant to the chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a remote hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means of access via Zoom as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As acting chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be accessible to the public. In accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. Is anybody recording?
No one's indicating they are.
Okay. And in attendance tonight here, we have Jacob Smith, Mount Kagan, Amy Parsons, David Phil, and Randy Deiser is remote tonight. So we'll also be taking a roll call. All right, so we'll go down to Josh. Okay. All right, within 2.1, job description, adoption, and retirement. Chief, over the chief.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, board. I am going to be asking you tonight for two things. You've all had a chance to review the job description for Master Police Officer, as well as review the retirement paperwork for Officer John Robitaille. I see John and Mandy are on there. So I would just like to read a little synopsis about John before we get into any discussion that you may want to have. John Robitaille began his career at the Hadley Police Department in October of 1999 as a special police officer. Over the last 26 years, John has held several important roles with our agency. He has been our training and maintenance officer for multiple disciplines, has been our department armorer, fingerprint technician, sexual assault investigator. He has maintained our breath test machines. He has field trained dozens of new recruits, has been the union president, and even did a stint as an acting sergeant. As many of you know, John has ALS and is forced to retire from policing. And we are the first unlucky ones in the last 26 years to work in a department without our coworker, our confidant, often our class clown, and our friend. John is probably the most well-known officer we have with our residents, especially if you make good food. John had his own parking spaces at some of our local farm businesses, and many of you knew that if you didn't see John for 2 straight days, it was only because he was on his days off. John has given his adult life to policing this community and in making sure folks slept soundly in their beds at night. And that if you had a problem, you could turn the world upside down to try to solve it. He has earned our enduring respect, and he deserves to be able to enjoy his retirement after all of his efforts. Sometimes life isn't fair, and all we can do is try to honor our friend in the best way we know how. To try to live the way that he does. Selflessly, honorably, and with a hint of the rascal that we know him to be sometimes. To that end, I have one honor that I would like to bestow upon this select board. I'd like to give you the honor of approving the creation of a new job title in our agency and to appoint a single officer to hold that title. The title of Master Police Officer is intended to be used to recognize those officers who've gone above and beyond and who show leadership qualities that all officers should emulate. They act as a liaison to command staff and must exhibit an unmatched level of professionalism while always being easily accessible and outgoing with the public. John checks all of these boxes and more. I would very respectfully request 2 things. First, that this select board vote to create and appoint Officer John Robitaille to the level of Master Police Officer. And second, vote to vote to allow him to retire from our agency with our gratitude, with an effective date of December 20th, 2025, after 26 years of honorable service to the Commonwealth, the town of Hadley, and our agency.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Amy, second by Jane. Any discussion? Jennifer, roll call please.
Roll call vote. Hill,
Yes.
Keegan. Yes. Isaac,
Yes.
Nevin Smith. Yes. And Parsons. Yes. Thank you.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll be in touch in the next few days, John. We still have a few more things to take care of.
Okay.
Thank you.
We love you.
All right, so we'll move on to consent agenda 3.1. And I have minutes from June 4th, 2025 and June 18th, 2025.
So moved. Third.
All right, motion by Amy, second by Jane. Jennifer, roll call please.
Roll call vote. Excuse me, Hill,
Yes.
Keegan. Yes. Isaac,
Yes.
Nevin Smith. Yes. And Parsons. Yes. Thank you.
And then we'll keep going down to, we'll come back to the public comments, but old business 5.1 2026 licensing.
There's only two businesses that have come in since your last meeting date, and that is Cinemark and Rinky Dink, which is Interstate 91. And I would ask you to approve their common vicular skating, rink, automatic amusement licenses, and PAR licenses for the next year. So moved.
All right, motion by Amy, second by Jane. Jennifer, roll call please.
Roll call Field,
Yes.
Keegan, Spicer,
Yes.
Nevin Smith, and Parsons. Yes. Thank you.
New business municipal grant database 6.1. I have
I'm able to get to be able to share my screen.
Yeah.
I have the button grayed out on the wall too.
Try refreshing.
Okay.
Does he have a microphone?
He does not, but he can come sit up here. Come sit up here.
I have this picture.
You can sit right here. So then.
Can everyone hear me? Great. So what I have here to present to the select board is some grant funding, research opportunities, and the creation of a living grant tracker for the town of Hadley. So the goals of this were to introduce grant funding opportunities the town might not be aware of and track the progress of those opportunities in a master grant tracker, a living document that can be continually added to. to predict and plan by future funding. And to also to identify key future potential funders for the needs of Hadley today and in the future, especially after override. So what I did here is I created a list of vetting grants with deadlines, links, and eligibility. Factors such as staff burden, realistic opportunity, eligibility, and meaningful impact on the town were all considered in the vetting of putting these grants up. Any eligibility requirements that disqualify the town due to size, location, or other factors were not included, and all applications are set and grants are set for dates in the future, with the ones highlighted in yellow reoccurring and expected to get funding for the fiscal year 26 and 27, and the ones in red with closed dates in the future. I utilized tools such as public services like grants.gov and mass.gov website, and also private resources such as Candid for research and past funding, which I was granted through the university. I only used free university or Hadley Library providing grant databases for practicality and feasibility of continuation in the future. And funding partners, past grants, and current needs were all considered. Areas of funding research that interest that I focused on were mostly municipal services of the fire and police department, educational grants, library, municipal building repair, Department of Public Works, housing infrastructure grants, agricultural grants, veteran services, and community planning. These were derived from looking at the past budget for fiscal year 2024, looking at the current funding for 2025, and seeing where the biggest gaps were in these funding. So I thought that these grants could kind of match what was needed. So the formatting was I have the grant program name, funding agency, the purpose within the context of the town of Hadley, eligibility, including not just if we are eligible as a town, but also likelihood based off past funding and funding to other towns around us, due dates and cycle, department of use, and then links and other accessible ways to get to the grants. Design is utilized to be easily adaptable with more information, such as potential award, match requirement. Many of these grants don't have that posted yet for fiscal year 26, but there's space to include that or in another page or such. Color codings, as I mentioned before, rolling or fixed dates are identified with yellow, red fixed due dates. So an example of how this can be used is we have something like library repair for the roof or more municipal buildings. Within the grant tracker, you can see an eligibility. You can list them through which one is most eligible and likely to be granted to least. So out of these three, the Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program and the Sustainable Resilient New England Libraries grant are the most likely to match up to the needs of Hadley and are also very likely to be granted based off my research. Just a second final example would be something like U.S. Department of Agriculture, community facilities. The USDA has a lot of grants. Many of them, especially in the surrounding towns, including Hadley, are eligible but are rarely applied for. These offer in regional and rural economic development, direct loans, and these are extremely likely for the town to be able to obtain if not yet. So moving forward with this, more identification and listing of relevant and potential funders other than state agencies, which I was doing most of my research in Candid, which I was granted through the university, and seeing where funding opportunities were available for towns in the surrounding area and Hadley in the past. Requests for proposals, direct outreach, new opportunities, as well as reliable funders. Along with mailing lists to join. I know in my intern email I have a bunch of them, but I can also list them in the grant document because they have a lot of funding opportunities that chance to crack, and formatting improvements based on eligibility with different elements identified. And so I have the link, which I will send to the select board, and are there any questions?
Are you a good grant writer?
I'm definitely practicing. I haven't, this is more on the research side because I don't think we're looking at it yet, but I have looked at these and the eligibility requirements and I can see how to make the case. So I believe that I do have the skills to do so.
Thank you. And where is this going to live?
This is gonna go out to the department heads at the next department head meeting in January. And then we have a shared drive, so only a shared drive that everybody can access. I was not intending to put it on the town website, but it was giving internal documents and access.
That's great.
It's been really helpful. It's gonna be a really good time.
Oh, that's
great.
Yeah.
He really ran with this and made it his own.
Now, again, this is something that, everybody, as you know, the police chief does his own thing, the fire chief does it, and we've never had the bandwidth to have centralized in any meaningful ways to have you go through the effort of pulling this together. Just that alone is hugely helpful, we're all actually tapping in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll move down to 6.2, employee appointments.
Yeah, I'm sure you recognize those two names. Those are unfortunately the two firefighters that we recently had to lay off, Max and Dwight. Max and Dwight both worked for me as traffic control under the fire department, and we laid them off at a pretty tough time of the year. They are not hired anywhere else officially yet. I'd like to appoint them as traffic control so they can continue to kind of put food on the table and get their families some Christmas presents. So I would respectfully request that you appoint Max Arvidson and Dwight Redwire to traffic control.
So, and just so the viewing public is aware, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but traffic control details are paid for by the contractor or the agency requesting it. And that includes an administrative surcharge that we charge them for the hourly rate. So there is no cost to the town for having these two individuals do traffic control.
That is exactly correct. Not only that, but your mention of the administrative fee actually makes the town money. So 10% on every detail, every road job that they work.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy. Any other discussion? Jennifer, roll call please.
Roll call vote. Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
and Parsons.
Yes.
6.3, fire department resignation and hiring freeze discussion.
I'd like to request that we pass over this. The fire chief has been ill for the past couple of days, and this is probably a little bit more of an in-depth discussion than simply announcing a resignation. He did have another resignation from his department. So I already have this on for a draft agenda for our first meeting in January. We'll be ready to discuss it at that time.
All right, we'll go back up to public comment 4.1. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes each so everyone has time to speak. Is anybody here for public comments?
No one has indicated their public comments.
There's nobody here but us, so that limits that. All right, how about town administrator report and project updates?
Sure. You'll see on the TA report that firefighter up for discussion in yellow, that is attached to the discussion we just passed over with the fire chief. Everything else is paused, and anything in light blue are new items. The library roof, we have had discussions with council as well as with trustees, and we will be putting this on for select board agenda for discussion after the new year. As you know, tonight we'll be discussing our budget, FY27 budget, as soon as Senator Comerford, as soon as we are done meeting with Senator Comerford. When we get into the budget discussion, we'll be hoping to get some guidelines. And miscellaneous, you probably noticed one of the large individuals in the back of the room with the glasses on is one of our 3 new recruits who just graduated from the police academy this past Friday. They have all started field training and hopefully will be on the streets very soon. Scott McCarthy and I attended the Route 47 Fort River Bridge kickoff meeting, which was yesterday actually. They are projecting a March 2026 start date. The bad news is that the end date is projected in 2029 at some point. It will be an alternating traffic over the bridge, and there will only be a widening detour. Everything else will be allowed to pass over the bridge, so it shouldn't affect traffic too much. And
The north part again, not the south part. correct?
this is the one that's right by the down in the south on Bay Road, right near Lawrence Plain, right near the water treatment plant.
Oh, okay.
And Susan is
Isn't
just
there a Fourth River that goes up Lake Warren also? Isn't that the same? The Fourth River is like right to my property.
That's the Mill River, Jane.
The river, thank you.
and Susan just walked in, and I got an email from her today. I don't know if you wanted to, is that what you were here for, or were you just here for?
She's here for the meeting.
She's got, Susan, nothing but good news is coming out of the collector's office this month. She applied for and was awarded a Maya grant for a little more than $7,500 for the sewer department to replace some hatch netting, sniffers and blowers. So we can replace almost $8,000 worth of safety equipment based upon the grant that she wrote.
Thank you.
That's all I have for updates.
I guess we'll can knock out announcements or maybe. Oh, liaison reports, do you have it?
Just a quick one, Mike and I attended the CCC meeting, which is the Campus and Community Coalition meeting over at the University of Massachusetts. And just some key dates to make note of. So students are leaving tomorrow as the dorms close at 11 a.m. Mike, tomorrow? I
Yes.
think they said.
Yep.
And they actually have a fairly long break. So most students won't be coming back until the latter part of January, but already are starting the planning for any potential, events that might be happening in the spring. It sounds like there's some consultant that the university hired to come in and in the spirit of continuously improving how these events get handled. I think this year, one of the things we really want to talk about is communication. I think that's something that's fallen down a little bit in the past, and in the spirit of the title of community coalition, making sure that how the school informed and being planned ahead of any of our staff is needed, especially given the current strengths. Looks like.
Kayla just received her certification from the Congress to be a tree warden, so congrats, Kayla, on that. Amy Jennings just received her 200-hour teacher certification program and is now a yoga instructor. This says, but I think it's supposed to be.
It is now.
And that's his from Reed. We need from Park and Rec, we'd like to extend the appreciation to the fire department and especially the Mike's Bank, for helping with our annual Santa Work Proudly, an enormous success. We'd also like to thank our very special Santa for taking the time to brighten the smiles and help make wishes come true. As always, a huge thank you to our town administrator Mike Mason and Park and Rec commissioners for supporting our endeavors and making this community events and success. Anybody else have any other announcements? All right, well then I guess we will, unless I missed anything, we'll take a 5-minute recess before we get going with Senator Comerford at 6 o'clock.
Well, Senator Comerford's meeting is not a public hearing,
Okay.
so if y'all wanted to take it up right now, you could. If as long as the senators would She might need a 5 minute second to get situated.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just pulling up the document. Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. For affording me the opportunity to talk to the great select board of the town of Hadley. This is Jessie Cooley. I think lots of you know Jessie, and she's done constituent services for us. And as Elena is out with the baby, Jessie is doing like the unbelievable thing and flexing into district work, and running all the interns and doing all these things. And we have a person now on the team who's doing district constituent work. So we're trying not to miss a beat, thanks to Jessie. So thanks. So I'm really super, yeah, I'm super happy that Jessie could be here. All right. So first of all, I've said this before to some of you. It is not lost on me or my team that local municipal service, whether it's the select board or municipal offices or school committee, is the hardest service there is. Hands down, it really makes what I do look like Cupcakeville. And I know that. And I know that it's my job actually to make government work at the state level better for Hadley. That is, what our call to action is on behalf of the 25 cities and towns I get to work with. And I will just say the work in Hadley is exemplary. What the town is doing and tackling, what you're talking about, what you're stretching toward, what you're calling out in terms of state action or inaction, how you're helping us do a better job. It really is amazing. The select board is amazing. And the town administrative officials are really incredible. And as a result, we have a good idea of how to help Hadley. Not that we've won on every case at all, but you've really helped us do a better job at representing the region. And that's a credit to your select board and town. So you wanted to talk about a number of things. I don't know how you would like to go forward. I'm happy to take questions first and then I can fill in. Or we can, however it is that the select board would prefer to execute on this.
Yeah, we just have, I think, 4 bullet points, and then I think actually has the other questions, but, thank you. The first one would be the health insurance.
Yeah.
Status of insurance trust. We've got any updates?
Yeah.
on that?
So I've tried to keep Hadley up to date along with the other member units. There are 73 member units in the HCGIT from Western Massachusetts. That's about 12,200 people. About 40% of those are my constituents. So when in late July, when HCGIT came to some of us in the legislature, I certainly raised my hand to say, this is a problem. The problem with the timing was it was after the governor had signed the budget. That's tricky. And then the problem with the legislature engaging is that HCGIT is a private entity. So there's no public oversight. There's no public regulation. There's no public framework whatsoever for engagement. So it took a little time, but we moved pretty quickly and we really pulled in the administration. And we worked in 2 tracks, basically, with the HCGIT staff and executive committee, mostly saying, what do you need? And bringing in Division of Revenue, the lieutenant governor, the governor, GIC, you can imagine all of the acronyms being tuned in. HCGIT is not the only private trust of its kind, facing this, but it was quite significant in its ask. So it asked the legislature for $25 million. Again, without any conversation whatsoever, before, no ramp up. So that was tricky. Again, I know it's tricky. These times are tricky. So it's like a balancing act, right? And then we worked with the administration on whatever it could do quickly to support HCGIT and actually shared constituents. So the couple things that we've done are that are concrete and maybe actionable. We did pass a small piece of legislation that said that member units that were considering leaving the trust could amortize the current expenses, the hikes, and we project more hikes, and could amortize the runoff costs, because we did find out through these conversations that HCGIT, it wouldn't have been able to give you back your runoff costs anyway for a little while per the MOUs, but they've used those in operating. So we worried about some greater delay. So we did that. There were some technical assistance webinars held that the Gov's office actually paid for. And then GIC has tried to be useful, answering questions just about not only its own services, because we are not presuming what communities could or should do. That would be like a bananas overreach on our part. But we did think there are experts at the state level. Could you lean in to talk with member units about this current time? And we asked Maya too, MMAs. And that's because, I don't know, I'm not an insurance expert, right? So I don't know how to hedge risk. I don't know how to rebuild reserves. And HCGIT became and is currently dangerously low, dangerously drawn down. So there isn't going to be any state money for HCGIT. That was not something we could secure. And I can understand the concern of the administration because it is a totally private entity, even though the insurees are municipal, largely, and some like Valley CDC and other nonprofits. The majority are public, and I totally get why it's different than like a total for-profit entity, except it is private and it is privately managed. And like I said, the administration is taking a hard look at insurance group trusts like this because there are numbers of them out there, and this is a terrible time for healthcare costs. So that was a long answer to your question. But in the end, there is a net under, if Hadley wanted to leave at some point, there would be a net under you and some amortization possibility and technical assistance if you want it. That's the sort of the end of, sorry. That's the sort of summation of it. Thank you. Sorry.
Mainly more just for clarification, just because I throw around a lot of language that may not resonate with people who are listening to the conversation. So when you're talking about runoff, right? One of the things that we've tried to explain to people is that even if we were to, call it cut and run tomorrow, there are claims that are in the system that are being processed. Right?
This is the tricky time for towns. I've said tricky too many times already tonight. I'm going to stop saying it. But if Hadley were to decide to go someplace else, that space between when you decide and when you go and are fully insured, that's a pretty dangerous time for you, which is why communities maintain balances. And so Hadley has a balance. The balances at HCGIT, as I said, are not immediately available. They wouldn't have been anyway. They're really not now. But that would have come back as a cushion for the town. And HCGIT is not saying they're never coming back. It's just they did say they absorbed them into operating. And that's one of the things that we were able to do in the legislature to say, if towns wanted to jump, if member units wanted to go someplace else, we could help you stretch out all of those costs. And you could negotiate that. And it's not dissimilar to other moments where the state goes, you know what, you didn't expect that, like snow and ice. We're going to let you stretch that out so you don't have to pay the whole thing right now.
Well, I think there are a couple of buckets. There are claims that have been made. So let's say it's a January 1st date, just for cutoff purposes. There are unpaid claims that are in the system, but then there are also something called incurred but not yet reported claims. So the paperwork hasn't been filed.
Correct.
The medical procedure, event, whatever occurred within the calendar year 2025. So that's still our legal
Correct.
obligation as a town to cover that if we leave the trust. We can't put that on, a new Blue Cross isn't gonna hold up their hand and say, oh, sure, don't worry about it, we'll cover that.
Correct. Yeah.
We don't know what that number is the last I left on. Is there more information on that? Yeah. Oh, incurred but not reported, we definitely don't know, but even the claims runoff.
You should know your number, your claims runoff number that you have technically on hold with HCGIT. I can get that for you. I have an Excel spread. I asked for it just so I could tell
And
towns.
it may be that, Mike, I don't know if Lauren,
It was-
was that?
It was under 20,000.
Yeah.
Last time
Oh.
Joe and I talked.
Yeah, they're very varied. And that was one other thing is just that some of them hadn't been updated in a little while. And we don't fully understand why the legislators who asked, why is some places have 390,000? Why do some places have fewer? So that was just a confusing thing. Right. This would be your responsibility from the time you leave and enter another. If a claim is coming due in that window, that's the runoff window, that would be on the town to pay that. And that's why a lot of conversations have been happening around hiring, and I know it's hard to do this with a tight budget, hiring insurance consultants who can help hedge risk and look at your past claims and all of those things. And again, I don't make light of these costs. I really hope you know I really do not. And you can certainly ask the state for technical help if there's, like Sean Cronin's been in there giving out some recommendations. And there's people now on retainer with the state who are helping. They're not like Hadley only, but they're offering some help. I will say, the HCGIT, the last I heard, they've hired a consultant. They've brought someone on retainer. They understand they have to build back reserves. It's pretty significant, right? So,
And there's only one way to do that. Yes.
it's to raise rates.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And so, lots of people are doing back of the envelope math about that. Again, I don't make light of that either. And lots of people have asked me to comment on, HCGIT's past businesses practice, like doing negative rates or 0 or 1%. And I feel like, hindsight is really a lovely place to look back into. And, again, I'm not here to disparage HCGIT. I just sort of caught it on the flip side, and tried to grapple with it, with some humility, since it wasn't a state program.
Okay. Next one, school funding for Western Mass. Any updates on that?
Yeah. So, you know better than I do how inequitable the Chapter 70 formula is. I know this. We should sing it through the rooftops. And I think Hadley's doing a very good job advocating. There are basically two sides of the Chapter 70 formula. Both are broken. One is what Hadley gets, right? So that's Chapter 70 proper. And you get more than that because you get, some special education circuit breaker money, you get other things, charter school reimbursement, things like that. But then there's a local contribution. What is your target share? It's called. So the Chapter 70 hasn't been opened in 10 years. The target local contribution hasn't been opened in 18 years. That's a long time. I believe, I'm on record. I've pressed the Healy Driscoll administration about this. The Senate passed this 2 fiscal year budgets ago. I believe we must open the foundation budget. It hasn't been opened now in 10 years. The last time it was opened, good things happened. We just weren't disproportionate beneficiaries out in Western Massachusetts. But it was before I was in the legislature. And I don't want to disparage that work either. It's just that we need to deal with rural schools and schools with declining enrollment, which is every single school. Every single district I represent has declining enrollment. This is a wider Western Mass problem that we're trying to address, right? To build population, we must build. population. And that means we have to build infrastructure and housing and all of that kind of stuff. So in the last fiscal year budget, the Senate led half of this work. So we tried in 25 and we didn't make it over the line. We tried again in 26 for the target local contribution. That is happening right now. And I am very involved in it. There have been 2 hearings that individuals could go to. One was a Greenfield hearing where many of our districts were present. And then one was a virtual hearing. And the target local contribution asks municipalities to say things like, well, how is it affecting your fire service, your police? How is it affecting roads and bridges? How's it affecting Prop 2.5? You have some poignant and pretty pressing testimony to offer, right? In terms of overrides and the difficulty there and the consequences to your town budget. So I would bet I'm on the verge of begging Hadley to send testimony, hard testimony, unequivocal, hold nothing back. We can follow up certainly with where to send it. We've sent it, in different ways. With my testimony, both verbal and written. We made a little video about it so that it would make sense to people who aren't, deep in it like a select board would be. This is the administration is actively listening right now. It will look at things, and the things it can look at would matter. It could look at the difference between the state split and the locality split, right? Right now it's 59-41 with us paying more. Why is that? Right? Why is that? Right now we're capped in our payments, right? So the state says to Hadley, you pay this, and Hadley struggles to pay this. Whereas some of I say with some disparaging comment, the W's out east, Wellesley, Winchester, right, Wayland, they can pay 20 or 30 or 40 times what the state says without even breaking a sweat. Why are they getting capped? Why do they get to, whereas Hadley says, you only have to really pay 82.5%. You get capped. Why in the world are they getting capped when they could round the bend many times over? So these are the things that this commission is looking at right now. It could pass meaningful recommendations. So I would just urge Hadley to send in hard hitting testimony on the part of the select board. And certainly the school committee too, would be, and I'm very grateful. There's really nothing. My wife was a school committee member. Oh my heavens, that is hard work, right? Join together, right? Some town governments are joining together and they're doing it together. Some are asking for meetings. You could do anything you wanted. And I would be with you. If you said, Joe, get us a meeting, I would get you a meeting. If anything you wanted. But this is your moment to talk about target local contribution. In terms of Chapter 70, this is also your moment, different letter, but go to the governor, go to the lieutenant governor. We'll send you that as well. Ask Kristen Ellico, who's a wonderful Western Mass director, for a meeting and talk to her about opening Chapter 70. The governor must do this. I really like our governor very much. I do not like that we have not moved on this. I'm really clear on this. And Chapter 70, we could consider all kinds of things. We could consider charter school reimbursement. We could consider special education. We could consider circuit breaker. We could consider what happens with rural schools, right? Where we have fixed costs and not enough bodies to pay the fixed costs. We could consider hold harmless, which is the state considers a gift. Our communities consider a hardship, right? Because you're getting more than the state says you should be getting, but it's only going up by 1 or 2% a year, which if inflation's going up 6 or 11 or 18 for healthcare, that's tantamount to a cut. So 2 opportunities to go hard as advocates. And I really would urge you to do that. If you do that, Jesse and I will follow up and CC us, and we will amplify as we are, and making sure they hear from you.
Question on the climate, I'd say, I don't know, 15 years ago, whatever. I know back when I was on the school committee, the big push from the state was very much, there was the regionalization. Everything was about, well, if you can just regionalize, kind of wagging your finger, because that clearly solve all problems. It was the small,
Yeah.
isolated school districts, and my understanding is that the numbers don't necessarily work any better in that regard today than they did back then.
It is not a panacea. You're correct. What's more, and Rep. Blay and I have a bill on this. What's more, right now in the state, there is not an infrastructure that can help cities and towns do really hard work. Regionalization is incredibly hard. There are 4 regionalization projects happening now. One in my district, which is the super regionalization of Pioneer and Gil Montague, right? That's happening. That is very hard. And the state is not in a proactive position where it's saying, you know, okay, guys, this is really hard. We're going to both give you some incentives to understand, because everybody has different, right, target local contributions. There are different hold harmless pictures. To collapse this in with no one losing, right, no constituency paying more is a real feat of math. And the state has to have a stake in it that's real, and high engaged technical assistance and facilitation help. So there's both what you're saying, which is correct, that it hasn't proven to be a panacea, that it hasn't penciled out. And then the second part is these studies, which are costly, are not being adequately supported by the state. And those are two real barriers. Do I think regionalization across the board is the devil? I don't. I'm curious about it. I think, especially led by communities, right? I don't say, you all say, right? And then I try to support. But do I think it's being done well right now? No, I don't. And we need more of an incentive and more of a net under communities. Like if you wanted to pursue this, we would want to set you up better, which is what the bill Natalie and I have. It also says we should do $60 million for rural schools. And the highest we've ever gotten is 16. So 1.6 is different than 6.0, right? And so we don't know what Hadley would look. Well, actually, I do know what Hadley would look like with that delta, $44 million given, a portion to Hadley with your great superintendent, right? You would be in a different position. You could also ask that to the governor. So when you're asking for another Foundation Budget Review Commission in H2, which is her second budget, you could say, like, fully fund the rural school recommendations. 16 million is not 60.
All right.
There are several people from school committee here. If any member of school committee like to speak, or Dr. McKenzie, I live here.
Oh, is Dr. McKenzie here?
She is.
Yeah.
Oh, she's the best. She's like a great superintendent.
So
Annie, did you?
I'm happy to speak. You're too kind, Senator, and I apologize. Can you hear me if my internet is slightly unstable? I'm visiting my sister in San Diego.
Perfect.
A little bit of unstable internet connection. Thank you so much. I did submit written testimony regarding the local contribution study in Chapter 70, the local contribution study. I did copy you on that, Senator, but I did just reshare it with the school committee and send it to the town administrator as well. Thank you for bringing up rural aid. As you know, this year alone, I believe Hadley received a cut somewhere around $30,000. So we had already budgeted, and then rural aid wasn't funded at the levels that were expected. I know you know our friend and my colleague, Cheryl Stanton, who says so eloquently all the time, we actually have the answers. It's just about the will and willingness to fund some of the answers that we have. I also appreciate what you said about regionalization. Certainly not being something that should ever be dismissed out of hand as ineffective, but also not being a panacea. And one analysis that I think is important to do is to look at once towns regionalize around school expenses, how that affects the percentage of education expenditures as a percentage of total operating costs. And certainly in our community, the the education expenditures are now down to about 33% of total operating costs for the town, which is much lower than most surrounding municipalities, but also significantly lower than what you typically see with regionalization. Now, there are reasons for that, but I just appreciate you acknowledging that it isn't just good or bad, that there is a lot of context and complexity. And I want to say again, thank you so much, not only for your support and advocacy around helping towns work through this HCGIT, but also advocating so strongly for opening up Chapter 70 and local contribution, and for your tireless advocacy for rural aid. That certainly will make a difference in terms of school funding here, because Hadley is a hold harmless district. So we appreciate all you do. Thank you. I'm going to turn my video off because of the unstable internet, but thank you so very much. So grateful for you.
Well, you are really an exceptional colleague in this space, Superintendent. You really show them how it's done. So thank you. But this is, I hope we get loud and cranky. Like, no joke. I think they have to hear from us, right? We're 2 hours from Boston. There's a strategic tactical problem with that. That's part of the reason. And I would love to talk just a little bit about how we're trying to level that playing field as part of this. But okay. And then you wanted to also talk about the Route 47 bridge and the culvert. Is that, but please, you go read off the list you have.
So I guess
Oh.
a little more pressing would be.
Oh, the levy. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
the levy and then the hotels and meals tax.
Great. So the levy here, when I said I thought that Hadley was doing gutsy work, I really do think you are. I think it's hard to tackle a project such as this. So, with my colleagues in government, thanks to Hadley, we've been following this and, following the town's lead, and we understand that, Hadley right now, thanks to the chief, your great administrator, I have no idea how you're doing it, frankly, 2 jobs. I know you're looking, you're working on getting finer tooth estimates. Hadley will, for me, be a priority in the environmental bond bill. I think I've already made that clear to the town. And we were already able to get a Connecticut River Commission in the environmental bond with Hadley and Northampton and Hatfield, this circle area in mind. So we were able to already talk to the Healy Driscoll administration. They put that in. That will happen. And that's a way to have the state do an intermunicipal conversation, which we have to have. And it'll be a way for us to also engage the federal government more at scale, rather than Hadley having to say to the Army Corps of Engineers by itself, hey guys, you need to help us with this levy, right? We need the state's power. And so we've been working on that. So I'm happy to have any updates, but like I said, you're one of my earmark priorities. But then more than that, we were able to get into the governor's bill a systemic approach based on what I had seen witnessed in your good work here. And I'm going to see that through. I don't have any reason to think I'm going to lose that, but I will make sure it gets through. And then there's lots of inland waterway money in the bill that was also advocated for by us in advance of the bill getting out of the governor's hands and filed. That's intact as it moved out of committee. So it's in the Senate now. We're already having meetings on it.
And then the local option for hotels and meals tax, is that going to be taken up again anytime soon, or?
Boy, I really support this bill. So so this is the Governor's Municipal Empowerment Act. It is a good bill. It's a local option. I love local option, honestly. I think it's a smart thing because you'll know your business better than I know your business, right? But I could put tools together. I also support a local option real estate transfer for luxury real estate to help you build affordable housing. The governor, actually, it's a bill I have. She put that into her housing bill. The legislature, in its wisdom, God help us, did not do it, but I'm going to try to get that in. I'm also going to try to get the municipal building bill that Rep. Blay and I have into this. It's a good vehicle. Your advocacy here would be very welcome. to write to House and Senate leadership saying you want to take up the Municipal Empowerment Act. That is a good piece of advocacy. We can send all those, all the leadership name. Oh, yeah, I know you have them because you do good advocacy, but we're happy to resend them and say, please bring it to the floor and pass those tools.
Is that something, it's not a fair question. Do you believe that the entire legislative delegation representing the area is on board with this? Or is there advocacy we need to do within that delegation as well?
I mean, I think it's great to have a conversation with Rep. Gomez. I don't know where he stands. I'm sure he would welcome that conversation, right, with you. Not everybody feels, I will say not everybody feels as I do that local option is as strong a position. I'm really clear about local options. I feel like we ask towns to do too much, right? Like liquor licenses, age increases. These are things I don't believe we have a role in. And I'm pushing my colleagues to back off of making municipalities jump through so many hoops and then just simply giving you a suite of tools to try to do your good business with. So I think a good conversation with Rep. Gomez would be a good idea. Again, I have no reason to be concerned. But then I think, hitting up the Senate President and the Chair of Ways and Means and saying, hey, Hadley's a farming community. We have an opportunity, and we're having difficulty paying our healthcare bills, right? And we have all these aspirations for our community. Let us raise some money the way we think we can raise it feasibly, and still and get strong. So I think that's not a problem. That's a good idea, and know that I'm pushing for it to come to the floor. It is on my list of priorities when I talked to Senate leadership on behalf of towns. And I will continue working to make that. And the big bills, I think, are Municipal Empowerment Act and the Environmental Bond. Those are the two bills that we just had a town hall, and those were the two of the bills I talked about, because those are the big ones for us out here.
If you have time for one more question,
I have as much time as the select board wants.
So a hot topic for us, obviously, is our budget and the budget constraints. With the Route 9 project and the new sidewalks, I don't know if there's anything you can do to assist us with dealing with DOT as far as who's going to take care of the sidewalks. We have all these lovely new sidewalks that are 8 feet wide that the state pushes all the snow from the roadway onto the sidewalks. And we've been told that that's going to fall on us. We don't have the money and manpower to do our current sidewalks. So we have this big liability that may be appearing sometime next year or in the fall, or next winter, I should say. And they haven't been very helpful or transparent in telling us how that's going to be handled. So
I'm happy to, we've had this conversation before the Route 9 project happened. We had this, and where that came out in that moment, I was very new, 1920, like not 1920, but 2019, 2020. Although I could be that old, God knows. DOT ended up saying things like, it was the private owner's responsibility. It wasn't necessarily telling the town, but if that private owner had a sidewalk, it would be that private owner's responsibility. Now, what had they said at that time is, sure, that's well and good. However, who's going to police that private owner to do the right thing? How are people going to have access to buses, to safe crosswalks? So we didn't have a tidy wrap up. Since then, they have used fair share money to plow the rail trail, right? That's one of the other things that Hadley wanted. This is, again, way back, to have the trail open for residents. And we pushed, Elena, actually, it was one of the things that she felt really good about before she left. We got confirmation that DOT was going to plow the rail trail all winter. And that felt really good for, communities along the rail trail. And again, the advocacy came from folks in Hadley. So fair share money is changing things. So why don't we take this back to MassDOT and engage them again? We are also engaging them on Route 47 And Jesse was in a follow-up call on, with other state officials with the MassWorks grant, asking for, an understanding of why that didn't happen for the state. So always bring us in for this. And we just saw, you probably heard today that MassDOT is going to give Hadley money in 2028 for some paving along 47. I asked for the actual number, and they said that they were going to work with the town to scope it out.
Anybody have anything else?
Just in support of the Route 9 and the state plowing it. I remember the select board argument when they were showing us the plans for that we didn't need that many sidewalks, and they insisted. So they really put more on us.
Yeah.
Many more miles of sidewalk than they had.
I remember this. I mean, I was coming in at the tail end of this, but I remember you telling me that this is a challenge, right? Because the town didn't feel like it could say exactly, or town government didn't feel like it could say exactly what was sustainable there. We'll go back at this.
Thank you.
And
Randy?
I'm all set, David. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think, unless anybody else in the room has anything, thank you very much for spending.
Peter had something.
Peter's on finance committee.
Thank you for showing up today. I've got a question where the town has been having conflicts when it comes to, or problems with the taxes, of course. Now, it's been brought up about having a split tax and of it being, especially with the Route 9 corridor. But what happens is, because we have about 1,100 acres in APR land for all the farmers in the area, which is the largest in the state. So with that, the problem is if there's a tax increase to the commercial property, the farming is also affected by that. Is there a possible way, or what would it take to make it residential, agricultural, and then commercial, so farming isn't caught underneath that umbrella of commercial taxes?
It's a really good question. One of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, just briefly, is that I had filed a bill on pilot payment in lieu of taxes and state-owned land and protected land. Because so many of our communities, like Hadley, have land that is in different considerations than commercial or private, right? And you're a good example. Actually, all the communities I represent are stewarding this protected land. And the governor actually is initiating a commission to look at this very question. And I've asked to be appointed. So she took my bill. She basically did the bill that Rep. Blay and I have. Because there has to be an answer, right? The Hadley farmers are growing food to feed the Commonwealth. And yet Hadley needs taxes and needs to work it out without putting these farmers out of business, right? Because these are your constituents. Right? These are our shared constituents. And it is really a conversation that needs a scalpel to have. And the commission, I hope, will return good, solid understandings and recommendations for not as toolkits, not as mandates.
So this hasn't just been ideas, it's actually been brought up as a topic for things to think about doing in particular cases like us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the commission, actually, we were talking to the Lieutenant Governor today saying, when is this going to start, you guys? Because the governor filed it as an executive order. And I asked to be appointed, and I was, for the Senate. So I'll get to, engage Hadley in conversations about this. So it'll be good for what you're talking about. It'll also be good for any of the state-owned land that Hadley has on your rolls, right? That for which you're not getting enough money, frankly. And there's two things, just for a second, there's two things wrong with the pilot formula state-owned, besides the lack of nuance. One is that our land valuations are judged based on Nantucket, basically, right, where the land is more expensive. And then not only are we judged based on Nantucket, we are devalued because we're not going up as quickly as Nantucket. So there's a a knife in there that sort of turns, which is horrible. We're also not valued for what I call ecosystem services. And this would be farms, right? Farms are sequestering carbon, they're growing food, they're cleaning water while they do this. So they're cleaning the air, they're cleaning the water, they're growing our food. There's value to them. And our farmers have value beyond what they're giving to the to sustain us food-wise. So I think we as a state need to decide whether or not we value those ecosystem services and then add on to what the state will pay for a community like Hadley. So that's my dream scenario. That's what I'm going in with. We'll see. But I hear you. We need to figure this out. Because farms, of course, we lost 27,000 acres of farmland in the last 5 years in the Commonwealth. And because the downward pressure on farmers is so great. Right. And yet I know Hadley needs to make your budget work. This is a real thing.
Well, unless you have anything else you want to hit, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I will just say quickly, we're doing a lot. So we're working in all these areas that you hear us, education or environment, but we're also, the delegation really is also working to level the playing field. When I first got into office, and I'm about to be in my 8th year, it's unbelievable. People said, oh, Joe, the state, they don't pay any attention to us. They don't care. They're bad people, and the truth is I think they're perfectly fine people. There are structural inequities baked into, and they're fossilized over hundreds of years, right? So there's structural inequities in the formulas, like Chapter 70, right? That's why we want to open it up. Chapter 90, your road and bridge money, that was completely fossilized, but it's not anymore, right? We're getting somewhere. A third of it's going out road miles only, because we have the road miles, but not the people and not the economic development yet. And that's where it was going out in that trio. And now 1/3 of it's going out just road miles, right? So we can make these changes. The pilot commission, we're getting screwed, excuse my language, by pilot, we're going to change that. The other is in grants. What are we valuing in our algorithms? How are we scoring these grants? How hard are they to do? And the administration really is hearing us. So EEA, for example, the MVP grant, which maybe Hadley will tell me you're applying for, which would be great in the next round, right? And now there's no municipal match. There's a rural set aside. There's scoring that privileges rural communities, so you have a fair shake, and many other things. And then in RTAs and things like that, right now we have we have microtransit running out of the RTAs. We have free RTA service. We have dirt road funding. These are things that just weren't in existence a couple of years ago. And so we're making some gains in ways that are good. And then on commissions and boards, part of what we're doing is saying, if you're going to have a board and commission, you better well have a Western Mass voice on there. So, for example, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, when they were deciding on the expansion of the Chinese Immersion Charter School, which I opposed. It's not because I believe, on charters, I believe it's not my job to tell a family where they're going to send their kid. It is my job to figure out how the state is responsible in managing district expenses with charter expenses. There was not one person from Hampshire, Franklin, or Berkshire County on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. So they didn't understand declining enrollment plus rural plus charter. They just had no idea. There is now. Right? And so and that of course is not enough, right? Because on the board, there's Newton, Arlington, Brookline, Newton. It's too much in Eastern Mass, but we're going to get somewhere. So I want to leave you with that, not as a panacea, not to tell you it's all fixed, but to say we don't have to settle. And I do think we have a prescription for real change with this administration. And these are the 4 areas that I focus on all the time. How do we get our positions, filled? We had some of the highest judicial vacancy rates in the Commonwealth. Not anymore. They're filled. And so you can expect me and push me and hold me accountable to do all those 4 things. Because unless we look under every rock, every formula, push for every opening, we're not going to gain ground. It's just a structural impossibility because we don't have enough political clout. But if we build the political clout, if Hadley engages, and if we push forward in these 4 areas, we actually can, and we are making some modest, God help us, too modest, and we're going to pick up steam, changes. So be squeaky, make us write letters of support for every single grant you do, every single one. Make us talk to you. Like, I'm happy. You don't have to make me do anything. Like, I really love having, but let's make meetings with state agencies. Let's bring them out here for tours. Let's do all of that. Because when you talk to them, they understand better than a politician, frankly. The politician is a bad word. But what you're doing the hard work.
Thanks for everything that you do. Appreciate the efforts that your entire support.
Wow, I love this community. It's really such a great community. And I was happy to keep it representing you after redistricting. We're going into another thing of redistricting, right? So we're going to do that too soon as population shifts. But I was happy I've been having this opportunity to serve you for these 7 years.
Thank you. Come visit anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Send women our best of luck.
I will. She just had a baby girl. So she'll be back in May or something along those lines.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
In the meantime, don't hesitate to be in touch with me as well, and look forward to continuing to work with you all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, so we have, item 2.3, multi-board meeting with finance committee, select board, school and assessors. So I guess if everybody's ready, I'll let everybody, you guys want to walk along?
Well, Susan and Cheryl are going to be there. I said for school committee and finance committee and the board of assessors. Looks like a lot of some committees online. And I don't see the assessors over here. Cheryl's here and the board is not here. I don't see that. So the assessors, I mean, they're not having a committee yet. The finance committee has theirs, and the school committee have to lead. That was involved. Warren. Yeah.
So while the finance committee is getting set up, Humira, if you'd like to open the school committee, we can go let
She just injured the lady to begin with already.
Did right how we wanted. Okay. She's the time of year.
She probably agree now.
Oh, there it is.
My apologies for that. I was just getting off my phone and I'll do that. Hello, everyone. Have Lou, the 5 of us here. Our Ruger and Virtue are here with me. We have a small phone. Stephen and Tara. We want to make a motion to open our school committee meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. You'll hear a second?
Seconded, can you hear me?
Yeah. Please.
Larry, Tara, just a little bit quiet.
It's really loud, so it makes it difficult to hear the people on Zoom. But we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Finance, you guys are ready? You guys can open your meeting?
Okay, I make the motion to open the meeting. Tonight, here we have myself, Amy Biden,
Pam Peg, Paul Gretzky, Peter Matusko, and Andy Kopacki. Want to make a motion to open the meeting?
Motion we, okay,
Somebody
second,
motion to open the meeting in a second.
second.
First by Pam, second by Andy, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and that's it. The assessors, there's something in the assessor's office, but not the board here, so they don't open anything. And Linda, are you going to start off?
I would, but we did the presentation at the select board meeting a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not going to go through that again. I assume you don't want to go through that again, but what I thought I would do is do some highlights of what we saw in the issues that came out of that meeting. What I have is, and I think these are on board docs as well, I have a 3-part packet. One is that summary that I have done of revenues, the second is of the budget, and the third, although I won't get into it, but just interested a review of that, the quarter one year-to-date report. So what we wanted to call attention to in the revenues were that we don't have, we're actually looking at fewer available funds for revenues for 27 than we had for 26. And there are some primary reasons for that. One is in the real estate tax area, although we had the normal growth of the increase in real estate taxes, there was a reduction in the amount that is going to be allowed for new growth this year. That went down by 100,000. They are looking for an additional $140,000 for the overlay. So between the two of that, we have $240,000 less in property tax increases than we might have otherwise had. A second reason is our local receipts are not yet where we wanted them to be, what we have projected. For the first quarter, we have, our local receipts are down 200,000 in the first quarter. I mean, they're down 100, yes, that's right, but we expect $200,000 less for the entire year. So add that to our 440 or 240, makes 440. But the single largest reason is because we are not going to be continuing to use free cash. First, we don't have it, and secondly, it has a policy that does not work for us over time. That we have a reduction in, we will not be using free cash at all this year. We increased the amount used in 26 because we had to deal with the increase in the insurance benefits. And that had come pretty late in the game. So we unfortunately had increased our use of free cash by 600,000 to get to 26. So we're not going to have that. We're not going to be using the 846,000 total that we had in 26. So the first year that we stopped using free cash, that is actually a reduction in available funds for us. So the decrease in revenues, about 600,000, which means we can't even level fund from 26 going into 27. So we know that right off the bat. The second page is on the budget. So while we're dealing with 600,000 plus less in revenues, we are nonetheless still having to deal with the ordinary increases in salaries due to contracts and the wage study. We have health insurance increases still at about 15%, probably higher, quite honestly, especially after what we heard tonight. So that's $500,000 increase between the two of them. And just today I learned that instead of our normal increase in retirement benefits from year to year, what we pay out in retirement is going up instead of by 100, going up by 140, by 240,000. So that's another hit to us. We had you just can't get a break with revenues and expenses. And so that's kind of it, what is impacting us on the budget.
what I really wanted to call attention to, and I did last time, and I specifically want to do it with Finance Committee here on the budget. When you look back to 25, our 25 budget, and compare it to 27, our 25 budget was almost $21.3 million. And we're looking at a proposed budget with cuts of 22.2. And you think, well, that's $1 million higher, in only 2 years. That's pretty good. Why are we having a problem? Now you look at the benefits line, just jump up one line. In 25, it was 4.1 million. And in 27, we're looking at 5.2 million. And after what I just told you on insurance, we have that 5.3 million. So even though we have $1 million more to work with, we have the benefits, retirement, health insurance line taking up over 2 years, $1.3 million of that increase. That leaves no increases for any operation. If you look up in the 26 to 27 changes, you see that we must increase the benefits and other line. It's the 300,000 increase, now 4. And then the operational, that means the operational departments, all of them, including the school and all the town budgets, not including debt. The only thing I'm not including here is debt payments and benefits. So any department that has an employee, that's everything else. Those budgets need to come down by $900,000 in order to live within the available funds that we have. So it will very likely we'll be looking at reduction in positions. Once again, probably 10 or so, 10, 11, like that. We continue to try and see what we can do with the revenues. And we can certainly meet with departments and see what we can do with the budgets. But it's going to be a real challenge this year, and we want to get the budget worksheets out to department heads soon. We're looking for direction from select board and certainly the finance committee input as to any guidelines that you want to give us and them in dealing with this year's budget.
So what the plan is right now is Linda and I are working on sending emails out to all the department heads so we can begin meeting with them as we normally would for a budget cycle beginning the first week of January. And again, as she just mentioned, we know that it's going to take some work working with each department head because telling them even with the guidelines, you need to come in with a level funded budget. There are certain things within their budget that we're going to be asking them to build in, meaning we're going to have them put into their wage lines what the pay increases would be for the upcoming year rather than put it into a single account like we did in the past. I know Linda has said it multiple times, but the reason that was done the last time was because the contracts were still being negotiated and nobody knew what the increases exactly were going to be, as well as the compensation cycle was not done. All of that is now complete, so each department head can more easily calculate those increases, and they'll put them right into the budget. And then what we'll do is we'll sit down with each of them and work on reductions from expense lines or anything that we can do to try to get to the point of the guidelines that we're kind of given tonight. We recognize that this is very early. It's a lot earlier than we normally start a budget process. Probably a really good thing. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to get it going sooner. So we certainly don't expect into the weeds direction, more general 20,000 foot view. What would you like to see, and we'll accomplish it. We'll accomplish it as we work through it, and then as we continue to have. I know the chair Randy has mentioned that we'd like to do this once a month, gather everybody together, and go over where we are. We can bring more and more information as we're meeting with department heads as we come back. But that's really kind of the global view of what where we're headed.
So the only, I wanted to ask finance while you guys are here, we're trying to improve communication, and I think that's why Randy talked about the monthly joint meeting. But is there anything, I guess, that you need from us or Linda or Mike through the budgeting process to make the process easier and communication better?
One of the things I think we should relook at is coming up with a few policies. We started that a long time ago, and I just think it needs to be revisited, some of them, like the free cash policy. So, you know, some goals of what we want to do, and, you know, how, when are we going to, at what point is it on an emergency basis? Do we do it in mid-year versus a budget during budget cycle? I just think that would be great if we could come up with some. And there is some, but it's a little outdated in the website.
So you said, or do we do it on an emergency basis? What did you?
Well, like if something comes up and we have to add on new people, if we have to, like a policy, like if we have to add on sellers, unless it's something that is, otherwise it should be just during the budget season.
And I'm assuming, Linda, you have zero free cash being used in what you're projecting, right?
Starting point is zero, yes.
I mean, we might need to use some, but at least when we did the policy way back when we talked about it, we knew we were using it and we had a goal.
Right.
And we might have to do that. And then I'm not saying it needs to be something that's going, maybe it's something we work on together this spring. We come up with something. We might not be able to make it through without using any, but then we can have a goal to which direction we're going in.
I had a question, I know this is kind of the 20,000 foot view, but I think we stopped OPEB for the year. Are we doing that again? Or are we going?
OPEB is not going to be included.
Not going to be included.
Plan, I believe the plan was three public services.
We are really okay to go until the retirement fund, because remember, 3 or 4 years, I think, is what we were going to go, and we were told that was okay. We wanted to get going on it again. I think the last time we used it was in 24. If you're going back and comparing it, and that's included in the benefits line. So when I'm comparing 25 to 27, OPEB is not on 25 or 26 or 27.
That wasn't a.
No, I was just going to say the amount that we would have put into 26. We made more than that in the investment fund, in the OPEB investment fund. So it is a growing fund. So it's not as if we've stopped and we're come to a screeching halt. It is growing actually. I think that we exceeded what we would have put in. Of course, we would have made that and the donation, but it's still working for us because we opened it up early and we have it. So it's a large fund. It continues to have a good investment growth.
You, Randy, and Chris.
I'd like to say one thing before we get started. And through all the stuff we've struggled through so far, I hear a lot of concern over individuals or small groups, they're driving decisions and not necessarily on the boards. But my thought is we have to make decisions based on what's good for the overall town, not a specific group or a specific person. We need to keep that in the forefront of our minds when we're going forward.
Chris has a hand.
Yes, this is kind of unrelated to the discussion, but I just wanted to ask if those present in the meeting can just try to be conscious of the shuffling of papers. I don't know if everyone else who's on Zoom is having the same problem I have, but I can't hear anything with the shuffling of papers. It's incredibly hard to hear. So I understand that it's tough, but if you could just be aware of it, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
It's very good right now, Chris. So
Perfect now.
to your point, I hear you. It was very muffled before.
Situation, that was me. I have a question. When I'm looking at this that you gave out to all of us, and then when it comes to, we have the actuals and we have the projected. It seems like, and I've looked in this in the past, we're always projecting an additional 3 to almost 5% more when it comes to receipts. And we're trying to work on our budgets as to money that we are guessing is coming in. Why not work it with the money that we've gotten in the last year, and what comes in, that's what we work on our budget on. Because we're kind of working with money that we're hoping we get, and if we don't, we're already saying we're actually projecting even less money of 27 than we are in 25. Why that $200,000 almost drop from local receipts? But it seems like we're trying to work on our budget on money we hope we get instead of the money we know we have. Kind of guessing that, okay, if we had 4.2 and 25, let's, I hate to say the word assume that we're going to be getting the same amount of money coming in, and whatever we get more in receipts, that's, beneficial to us. But to try to working our budget as to money that we hope we don't get and say, geez, this was our budget. Now we have to figure out where to come up with this extra $200,000. So this is kind of something for me. We're working on our budget with money we don't even know if we're going to get.
We don't do it by hope.
I know that, but it seems like, I know that, but it seems like,
Well, Susan's the collector, Cheryl is the assessor.
Forecasting is part of the budget process. And it's not, it's not pulling numbers out of the air here. I mean, it's forecasting based on real data that we have in front of us.
okay.
You can't always just, you don't know, in your head if somebody's gonna go out of business or.
Exactly.
You have, Pennies or, other restaurants and things.
Right, we have experience, and Susan had long-term experience of how car sales are going, for example. So what will that do to our motor vehicle excise? Every single line on a very long local receipts list is, we go through every single one of them. And part of the meeting with department heads is talking with them about the receipts for their particular department. So, Susan's is, the real estate tax is easy. We know it's going up by 25%. We usually have, and we don't set the new growth or the overlay until we've met with the assessor. And so, that's why we know what we know right now. If it was hoped, I sure would have put a higher, possible, a lot higher.
So if the projection is even less for next year, what's going on next year in 27 if we're going to be projecting less money than 25? So something's going on with your data saying that there's going to be less car sales,
Yeah, because one of the indicators we had this year was that you saw a spike in new car sales because of the tariffs. They don't expect that next year. So you'll see that, I expect we'll see excise revenues. This year, they'll probably top $1 million. Next year, I don't think they will. So there's things like that. And we follow that, we follow closely.
So our revenues are higher this year. If you look at the top, see the total revenues is the top block in on the revenue sheet, which is the first page, which I won't rustle my page. But so in 25, it was 21 million, 26 we projected, and we don't know yet how we're going to come on this. 26 is 21.7 million, and then we're projecting 21.9 million. The reason we have less money available for the funds, if you drop to that second block, we are not going to use free cash. So there's the $850,000 drop, which is applied against that revenue, and that's what puts us in the hole. So if we had not had that increase, so if you look at the bottom line, yes, if you're looking after the revenues and transfers together, now we do. That's where you're seeing that the amount we have left to apply to the budget is less in 27 than it was in 25. That's the first time I've seen it. We are really quite conservative with revenues over the year, which is why we had years when we were seeing free cash at over $1 million, $1.4 million, because we would, and also the assessors require us to be conservative with us. There is a limited amount of increase that you can do on any particular revenue item. There's a percentage limit, is that what it is, or without having to address it specifically with them? I
In the recap? Yes, it's Department of Revenue. It's not, it's not general. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's Department of Revenue. It was every little bit, any increase.
As voiced by the assessors, or at least that was Danny would come in and tell us if we had it wrong. Cheryl will get there, but, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, we have been very conservative with revenues. And that's, again, as I said, that's why we had so much free cash over the last few years. So we've kind of gotten hit from all directions in a fairly short period of time. And we are pulling it in as best we can this year.
So from the school department, is there anything that you guys need from the select board or the finance committee at this stage of the budgeting process for you to make things?
No, that's the.
Claire, I can defer to you, or I'm happy to jump in.
Annie, I was going to ask you to jump in, please.
So I would say just the same thing that I believe that Linda, and first of all, Mr. Phil, David, thank you so much for asking the question. I would say exactly what Linda and Mike have said, which is as much specificity as people are able to give. I just quickly looked at if in fact the expectation is that every department decreases their budget by 2.6% from fall STM, that would be an additional $200,000 reduction on top of the $200,000 that the school returned to the town that was cut at STM. Everybody had a cut. I understand that. But the more specificity we have, the better, because then we can identify the impact of that on operations, on human resources, and what that means in terms of year-over-year funding or schools. I mean, so that kind of information would be extremely helpful.
So it's not going to be a very popular thing that I'm about to say, but just from, big picture standpoint, if we had an override ask of, $2 million, and didn't pass, we know that. There's been conversation about potentially coming back with some sort of a reduced ask, if you will. Which may or may not happen, just like there's a conversation about that. As we're sitting here right now, we have no idea whether that would be successful. So I'm worried that, we're going to do this budget process, which is FY 27, but I don't think that we have the luxury of inaction and looking at additional cost cutting during this fiscal year. Because we're just setting ourselves up. So as much as I hate to say it, I think we need to be having some discussions about, are there areas of rethinking staffing, rethinking how we do operations, rethinking service levels now. Because if we don't do anything, right, like I said before, we could wind up with absolutely no free cash if we have, local receipts that are either spot on or less than we projected. It's not just the expense of it, basically. So I think we need to maybe do that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that we need to be planning for the worst case, which is $0 extra dollars coming in, other than just the normal 2.5 yearly increase. And then if at some point we do an override and it passes, then great. And we have other options of staffing and of services that can be provided. We can work on that at that time. But I think, you know, if Linda, if you're saying, hey, we need to cut 2.6, then, you know, maybe we should budget for a 3% cut. So we do have a little cushion and maybe end up with a little bit of free cash at the end of the year. But to bank on an override, it's like you said, setting us up for failure in a few months.
And then the other thing is, I know, you know, department heads obviously need direction, but never really been a fan of just to pick a number across the board, because the reality is if you have a department of one, so, okay, so what, somebody comes in 45 minutes less every week or something? I mean, you know, there gets to be a point where, and I think we're pretty close to that point where we can't really look at things that way. So, do I have a better idea? Of course not. But I think we need to be taking that into account, that there are certain departments where it's fixed and then a salary or, you know, salary and a half or something like that. So we need to be talking to those departments. I mean, the only way to affect any change is going to be a reduction in service levels. And there are going to be some places where we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we reduce the service level, right? If we said, okay, the collector can only work 2 days a week now, that's what's going to happen. We're not going to collect. So,
Bills are going to go up.
yeah, the bills aren't going to collect. So, okay.
I know, I was gonna also ask, and I don't know if the word's been out, but something that Andy had brought up that I had also supported was, you know, going to departments and you know, asking people on voluntary, you know.
Well, yeah, VTO.
Yeah. I know that we want to maintain.
Probably more popular in the summer than in the winter, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you're right, but I mean.
But people need it all year round. You're hearing them, so yeah.
Right. To have, you know, voluntary, you know, reduced and, you know, reduction in hours and, you know, things like that.
I did reach out to all the department heads, I think the day after, and mentioned that I'm not being,
Yeah.
that's an idea that already been put out there. And it's you say, no, 10 years old.
Notations.
Wait till the weather gets warm.
I know we have a finance outreach, so to speak, coming up, where we're gonna kind of go into depth and kind of explain some of how finance is working out, so people have a chance to ask questions and go into details, so maybe there's a little bit better understanding in the general public how things work. We talked about it last meeting or a couple meetings ago, doing like an open forum where people could come in and talk about cost cutting, cost savings measures that we could implement that maybe we're not seeing from the inside, but you know, maybe they see why I say it's a significant amount of money. So I do think that I'll leave it up to the real chair when he's back, but we should get those rolling sooner rather than later, so that way if there is cost savings that would be identified for the public's health, then we can put it into the budget process for this year. And maybe there isn't anything that we haven't looked at, but at least we can say we tried every available avenue for people when we end up having a lady call.
Right. Yeah, I everybody completed the doodle hole I sent out, so I can still have a date.
I didn't.
You said that?
No, oh, you said the new
I
one?
sent a doodle poll to everybody, but I haven't got responses back from a lot of people. As soon as we have that, we can have a date scheduled.
My only concern, and I know that Melon brought this up, you know, is kind of the appetite for a lesser override. I kind of would like to get a pulse, and it's hard, but I'd like to get a pulse because, you know, we're talking about maybe 10, 11 folks that we have to lay off. I mean, we've already done a few cuts and had some very upset people. We've even tried smaller savings options and had very upset people. So my concern is we lay off 10 of other people. And then they're coming after us with pitchforks.
Yeah.
And then we have to do an override anyway because they want the service. So it's not a easy place to be, but I would love to get like a pulse from the community as a whole. How could we do that?
So David actually suggested the last time, that if you decide to go down that road to have another override, we will do public hearings again, but rather than death by PowerPoint, you just talk
Like a town hall meeting.
like a town hall.
Yeah.
People ask and, you can give a basic synopsis, an idea of what you're asking, so people know what you're asking for and what has changed based upon the last, I watched the last finance committee meeting. You can't go back with the same thing again. You gotta
Right.
show what you've done. And Amy, you just mentioned, you had 10 position cuts this year. We're looking at another potential 10 if you're going to ask for another override, and that's just FY 27. Nothing is going to get better in 28. So, just ask as opposed to teach a class. You know what I mean? Bring people in and let them ask what's going on.
I just think that the time crunch that we're gonna get into, that's something that maybe, January, February, because if we do it much later than that, we're never gonna be able to get that into an override or into the budget for.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's kind of what I have in my head. So as far as making sure that we get everything done up to that point, that's one of the reasons why we're getting these department heads in right after the new year. We have to start getting these numbers put together so that you all know what that delta is.
I'm all in favor of public forum, town meeting, whatever you want to call it. But if we don't get different people to come than have come in the past, and we don't get better numbers, we're not going to be any better off than we are now. And I realize that that's not in our control, but we've somehow got to get the word out for people to come to these things.
That's what I was just gonna say. How did we advertise last time? Was it just like social media and if you happen to watch the town meeting or something? I mean, is there a different way to pull it out to everybody in the public?
So we did, and I mean, again, this is just like, we wrap our brains all the time. So this past go around, we did the Gazette, which again, with the diminished population of readers. We did the Gazette, we did, Nixle. We sent Nixle, like some people who signed up for it, got text messages before everyone, social media, select board, town website.
Town website, the town news blast. And we asked all the town departments who have high population traffic to put up posters, which, I mean, I don't get big posters printed, it's just a flyer. But yeah,
We did that work short amount as well, I mean, I'm not probably.
But also go to where they are. It's a meeting to them. Like decide what 2 or 3 venues might be great to get invited to be special guests at. I don't know, when I, many moons ago when I ran, I remember going to the Polish American Society gathering at the Legion in the basement. Like, why not something like that? Or maybe the Young Men's Club. I don't know.
We can compare, I think one of the things that when we're looking at the demographics now of the town or whatever you want, just the population, there are a large number of people who don't participate in anything like that. So I think the best chance we have, when we've always said schools in putting their newsletter, right? Is that but even as you know, that population is on the decline.
What about something in your tax bills, the tax or the sewer bills, something like that?
Steps.
Actually, we didn't insert in. Yeah, we didn't insert a lot of bills.
I know there's a lot of stuff on the forum that nobody knew after the forums you guys had. Everybody was like, oh, I didn't know about it. And then all the rumors started and then whatever misinformation started. And I mean, when we came to the forum, I think there was maybe 20 people
And that was it.
Public meetings are.
But it's public, I mean, it's also, it's on the internet and it.
I get that.
It's big run,
But you've got
it's not just the people here.
Right, but I mean, the population in town is older and a lot of them don't have the internet or use it for that kind of stuff.
I think it can be really important when people say, oh, they're not informed about things, ask them if they're registered on Nixle, ask them if they get the town news. If they don't, have them call the select board office. I've registered more seniors and I've come over and done setup dates where I've registered people in real time because they sit in front of me. So I can do more of that. I'm happy to.
And I do the same in the collector's office. When people go, I never got this bill. You need to sign up for town news because I do an email blast 2 weeks before, you know. So I sign up tons of people that way too.
And just encourage people when they say that. And I think this is for any town official in any capacity. When somebody is, when you're talking to them, I think you should check in with them. Are you signed up for these things? These are the tools that we use to communicate. The town Facebook page we're using more and more to get the word out. And we're launching an Instagram page as well. So we are trying on a daily basis to reach out to people. And if y'all have other suggestions, then please.
That doesn't cost money. Everything short door knock is in that whole.
Town crier.
So you said the excise or real estate tax is going out right after Christmas?
Actually, well, real estate will be going out the day before Christmas. And then water bills will go out, February 1st.
So it should have not done by that.
Yeah, so if we can schedule a couple of forums or town halls or whatever, will we put it in sort of February?
Absolutely.
Along with one that says you have to shovel your sidewalk now, because we talked about that.
I got the letter.
I got the letter. I got some pictures.
It is going up on the website and it's interesting.
Jane, when's the next newsletter go on?
Next newsletter went to press today.
Yeah.
When's the next one go? Quarterly?
It'll go February.
Early March.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. People.
We have problems with people not reading that newsletter. I mean, the ones who come to the building should beat on the head and say, hey, we're doing this, and I think we had a fair number of people who come to those.
Yeah, no, it was good, but I mean.
It's hard to get people to pay attention.
I know, but I mean, why not? If we're really gonna ask people what their thoughts are, like Amy was saying.
Well, we do have a news blast for the senior center.
Is it digital?
Yeah. For people who've signed up with email, but there are many of us seniors, many of our seniors, I can include myself, that will not be.
Okay.
So maybe at our next meeting, we could try to schedule dates, like, down dates or forums, and then we'll be good to go.
Get it in the water.
We have to.
If we can indicate some changes.
With that. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I mean.
And I think that would, I think that one thing we didn't have last time was something definitive. One reason we're getting, what's really gonna happen, or what really is our revenue situation. This time, if we get this, we're getting early in the process, we have a good handle on our revenues. After the second quarter, which is only, which ends the end of December, we're gonna have a really good reading on it by the second week in January. By then, by the next time we have a group meeting, we're gonna try and get to these meetings with department heads in a rapid succession there. We get 3-4 meetings in a row, mornings in a row, and have them in and work through the budgets. What we'd like to do with department heads is have them not just send out a budget worksheet and say, get your budget back. In fact, I don't even want them back until they come into the meeting. We want them to figure out with current staffing and the raises, what would that be in your budget? What in your budget must be increased, such as a contractor? Let's say our auditor, our accountant, those are contracts. When their contract is scheduled to go up $5,000, we're gonna have to pay an extra $5,000. So we have to find that information. Get these things nailed down, do a budget. Then we come back to you and say, This is our bottom line budget. We're not going to talk to department heads about who's going to get, who might get laid off. It's just not fair. We will talk with them about any ideas they might have for outsourcing services within their department, sharing personnel with another department, covering or sharing services with another department in any other way. So I think department heads, and it's nice to get input from others in town and what they think we should do, but your department heads are the ones in the best position to say which departments they can work with or overlap services, or it's just not possible between certain ones. So I think we have to start right in town and find out what our own employees think is the best way to save money. Once we get a budget done, we'll have a real gap to come in, and maybe this needs to be an executive session where we say, this is a real gap now. We're now at so many 100,000. This translates into so many positions. It's where do you suggest the layoffs are? This is what we've got. This is what we recommend. Then you have your forums and you go, this is the budget with no override and with the situation we have in the revenues right now. Instead of saying, we're going to maybe have to lay off some people, it's like, it's the positions that are gone. You're losing another officer, you're losing 2 more firefighters, you're losing, no more plowing until we have so many inches of snow. It will be real then and not prospective. And then you have the forums because there's something real to talk about.
Can I devil's advocate?
Sure.
And then it's just an approach. So I think when I'm thinking about this, we heard the word or the phrase town hall and heard the phrase, right? And to me, they're 2 different things. I think if it's a true town hall is a listening session. We're not there to educate. We're not there to say, this is the plan that we came up with. Now you react to it, general public. We're really there to gather information and try to get more insight into how people are thinking and feeling about town operations and all of that stuff. And that feedback that we get from the public should then help inform, and I completely agree with you, a department head is in a far better position to say, here's what I can do with the money I've got. But if from that town hall, there's information that's communicated that maybe makes us think a little bit differently, that would then inform the budget process. And then the next step is public forums to go over what you just said. But I think part of the challenge we have is that people felt like they had ideas that weren't being listened to. And it's also an opportunity for education too, because if you can get people in there and they say, blah, 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 you say, well, actually it doesn't work that way. Oh. And then you have the opportunity to explain it to them. They may walk out the door feeling differently than they did when they walked in.
Maybe.
So, I mean, I'm thinking you might want to do the combination.
I like that. I really do, because it gives us the opportunity to just listen to some ideas and then frame how we're going to build this based upon some of those ideas. And I think it's a good thing. And if you notice what Linda was just saying, number 6 on your budget sheet is something that, as Amy brought up in the last finance committee meeting, like I already mentioned, if the select board's appetite is to move towards another override, we have to show what we're going to do differently. And that's one of those things, we have to continue to look for these efficiencies. We have to continue to look for, Molly was saying, it doesn't necessarily mean looking for positions to cut, but it does mean where can you take advantage of, combining things or maybe moving things around, adjusting some of the policies and things like that. Though that's something that I think should be a part of every budget building process as we go into the future. It should always be looked at. It's something that the fire chief and I when I got hired, started doing immediately. We share all sorts of things throughout, with our budgets. But again, those are a little bit more similar than some of the other budgets, but it is something that I think we should be doing. So those are the kinds of things that are definites. We are absolutely going to be doing that as we build this budget. Before we even get to, as Linda was mentioning, okay, now it's time for the select board and finance committee to sit down and decide where are the cuts coming from if we don't get any more revenue. Because there's a possibility we can save some folks by making some of those changes.
I have a question for Jane.
Yeah.
You, during the override discussion, you went to a meeting at the Sugar Shack. Do you have any idea how many people were there?
I don't know. You might know better than I do.
About 50 of us.
50 or 60 people were
Quite a
there.
few.
Okay, so that's probably about the amount of people we got combined with all the forums we held. And Humira, I think, had a good idea. We need to go to the people. We've got to find people who have clout in their community, their group, whatever you want to call it, and work with them to gather people together so that we can get out in front of as many people as possible. If we do the same format we did before, whether you call it a forum or a town meeting, I don't think we're going to get any kind of numbers that are going to help us. So let's think about that as well, please.
Yeah, and that's Randy, I mean, just reminder that people need to be willing to have people who make the offer to present attend. You know,
I understand. Yeah, no, I get that, Molly.
I think Molly's just making the point that we really need to listen to the voters before we do a final presentation of what we think we need to do.
I also
Get
think
that input.
Well, I was gonna say, I also think that a few of us, whether it's a couple people on each board or whatever, as a, I don't wanna call it a safe space, but I think, well, no, I think I've had quite a few people like reach out to me and just say, this is my idea, don't put my name on it, or some people are afraid to, say things in a public setting, whether they're afraid of retaliation, afraid their idea might be stupid, or, things like that. Like, I offer myself as a safe person to, call, text, Facebook message. If you want your name on it, great. If you don't, just say, can you bring this up anonymously, whatever. I'm happy to share everything. There's no right or wrong answers. There's no stupid questions. So that, I'll say that.
Possibly at the hearings, speaking to that, we could have people be willing to speak, but also as you come in, there could be papers and you could write anonymously and put them in a box and have somebody.
Like a suggestion box.
Yeah.
May I interrupt? And Tara's had her hand raised. I wonder if we could.
Very good.
Sorry, it's hard on Zoom to want to interrupt the conversation. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I like the idea of the anonymous Dropbox. I was going to suggest that as well, because I know that people who are comfortable speaking up at town meeting or town forums are, probably far and few between. And I know what Annie has done has been, and it sounds silly, but coffee with a superintendent. And people can come in and sit and discuss their concerns. And so I don't know if it's possible in this type of setting, in this type of municipality, but instead of it being a big forum with the select board and the finance committee up front and everybody coming up to a mic, could we have something more informal where I might feel really comfortable going up to David and talking to him one-on-one, but I might not feel comfortable going up to the mic because maybe I'm a little bit more conservative and I have a strong point, but I'm, uncomfortable making it over a mic. I don't know if that's possible, but like Amy said, there are some people who are just more comfortable talking to certain people. There's also people who are just more comfortable talking one-on-one than in a big group.
And I think there's plenty that, I think. So I guess what Linda's looking for is marching orders here going forward, and is everybody in agreement as far as what she's outlined? We're gonna make the budget, based on 0 free cash at the moment, and then we can step that up or down or up if needed to make things work, and then we'll have to come up with what we're gonna need to do as far as layoffs or cuts down the line. Anybody have any other guidance for her?
I had one, I would like to say that, we talked about, I think you could lump some of these, departments together, such as the Series 100, Series 200, maybe do it like that, so schools, all of public safety, all of town hall. I know that sometimes you could, like say town hall, there might be only 1 or 2 per department, but yet they work very well together, for efficiencies.
You're talking about joining the budget, a single budget?
Well, not joining the budget, but when we're looking at them for efficiencies, and you're talking about.
So for a more global view, if put them in, kind of categorize it a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, when I'm thinking about things like, okay, COA, library, park and rec, I kind of, in my mind, put them together. Well, like one might have one person where the other has others, several people, but we do some of the same programming, in some ways. And for efficiencies, when you're looking at some of these, I think, we couldn't just take a certain percentage off of one department, like Molly had mentioned before, but you're talking maybe a whole series, it's a little different than you take. So I like the.
Would you like to meet with them in groups? You know how you would meet?
Well, sometimes we did.
Department by department, would you like?
Well, sometimes.
Get the hundreds in?
Yeah, but we try to lump the, groups together sometimes, yeah, and we let each one talk. But sometimes when we do it and we meet, we do public safety if we can, one night, and it's all
Yeah.
they go one on, might talk once and then, and we kind of do that as it is.
Yeah, we try, yeah.
We try,
But we can talk about it.
but I'm just saying when we're looking at things, maybe, that will work. The other thing is, I like the efficiencies and I like to, when we can tell people if we've done something and it has to do with software or bringing up more technology that we're gonna do instead, or outsource something instead, that's something that the public would really like to know. I know that I'm gonna, personally, we're gonna work on, and we talked about it as a group, we're gonna focus a little bit more about, updating we've been bad about our webpage, and we're gonna get on that, and we're gonna work on that. So, we're gonna try to.
Is there AI, is there any AI that can be used to, help different departments do different things? It's a big, huge thing right now. I'm not too up on it, but is there anything out there that they could use? Like Scribe or something for meeting notes and stuff like that instead of things like that?
I did want to let the finance committee know, Linda and I have talked about it. We were waiting for this meeting. We just, historically, the finance director and the TA, report budget stuff to the select board first and then come to the finance committee. We love the fact that we're all in the same room right now, but we still recognize that there's an importance for y'all to meet separately. So, obviously, since we've done the kickoff, we'll be present at your meetings, unless you don't want us there. If you have, if you want to have a more personal conversation, we'll be present at your meetings, so we'll make sure that, if there's anything specific that you'd like from us. Also, to Amy's point, in between your meetings, we know folks may reach out to you and ask those questions that they may not want to ask publicly. Great opportunity for us to kind of have those discussions, and you know how to get them with us, emails, whatever it is. To answer any of those questions, the quicker, as you mentioned, the quicker that we can get questions answered, the less people will fill in on their own. So the better communication we can all have, I think, the better off we're going to be as well.
Will you be starting up the financial management team like you've done in the past for, there's a couple in the working group?
Yep. that we're gonna be working in, we're gonna be doing that as well. I don't know exactly what part of the process we're gonna put it into. I think
It'll be different
we're
this
gonna
year.
meet with the department heads, and I think that's probably gonna be the biggest struggle. Getting out. I know that, when I sit with Linda for the police department dispatch budget, I have to represent it as the chief of police, and then I have to sit on the other side of the table and say, this looks like we have to make these cuts, and then I have to sit in front of you folks and advocate to not do that. So it'll be a weird situation for me, but I know what the struggle is going to be. I know it's going to be there for DPW, and for Mike and for the fire chief as well, even though he's already taken his licks, so to speak. I see the poor guy driving the fire truck around in the daytime, sitting behind the wheel. So you can't even call off sick without falling behind with his administrative work and stuff like that. So
I'm just saying I love the working groups and hearing the other sides, like the assessor side, the collector side. I like hearing all the different sides. It made a big difference.
I'm sure we can get Susan and Cheryl to come to your finance committee meetings too.
I see more of it.
They will.
Just about 6 months. Will be someone.
Well, it's rare that you get to see some of the effects of decisions that you've made before you continue down a certain path. And I think we have that right now, so we should use it to our advantage. We're seeing what's going on, and we are going to bring department heads in front of both of your boards to explain not only what those consequences have been if they have had a position loss or positions lost, and potentially the consequences of continuing down that road. And I think it'll give us a really good picture of where we're going to end up based upon what happens.
If I could interrupt, I'd love to have Annie say.
Well, thank you so much. I also, the idea of talking about increasing efficiencies, and then Mike, what you just said about the importance of identifying not only where and all others have said this too, identifying where departments have in fact demonstrated increased efficiency. But I think it's equally important to talk with people about what the return on investment has been for the investment of tax dollars to date. So I'll use the school department as an example. In fiscal year, I want to say 18, I don't have the chart right in front of me, but I can find it for a future meeting and fact check myself. I want to say that roughly our total outflow of students leaving the district was, let's say, over 140. And the inflow, and that represented some spaces where the town ends up paying tuition, like choice out tuition and charter tuition. And the inflow was fewer than 100 students. And in fiscal year 26, we're looking at an inflow of approximately 148 or 149 students. Remember, again, there's only one way into the district and there are multiple paths out, and an outflow of fewer than 100. So those numbers are completely reversed. And in fiscal year 26, this current fiscal year, likely, although I emailed Mike and Linda, and they're wise to be extremely judicious because these things are billed to actual. But it is likely that the estimates that the state provided for charter and choice out are going to be lower. That's not a ton of money, but it's still something. And so I say all that to say, and I'm sure every department can demonstrate that the investments that they've made have had a positive impact either on outcomes for their particular department, on the services provided. So I think it's important to talk about increasing efficiency, but I think it's equally important to talk about the return on investment that some of these services bring to the community. And I know that every department has examples of that because I see and admire the work they all do.
Okay. Well, so Linda, basically what you presented, that seems like everyone's okay with, and I don't think we need to vote on that or anything, so.
Okay, so, I have a section on anything else the select board wanted to add, so I think that perhaps it's, maybe adding in that you're planning to have forums and what was the other?
Town hall.
Town halls and forums to help people. So that may give them some greater feeling that this is not just the be all and end all, that we're going to do the best we can, but well, we're working on two plans at the same time. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I think if it's publicly put out, the select board members, and I assume the finance committees are willing to meet with people one-on-one and not all of the group and hear their opinions and bring it back to share. And not, when I'm listening,
greater outreach.
I'm going to try and listen and not say, but we're doing it like this for us. I'm just listening.
One final interruption for me, apologies, I must go. It means that you won't have a school committee quorum, but I don't think we're taking any votes tonight. So thank you for inviting us. We look forward to staying connected in the coming months. I'll watch the rest of the recording at another time.
If the school committee wants to adjourn, I think we're set.
She just left, so.
All right. you guys- One word, all right, and then that's the finance committee, if you guys have anything else, otherwise, if you guys are going to adjourn.
Good. Okay. Yeah,
Good. Motion to adjourn. Second.
all in favor?
And then.
Yeah.
Second by. Roll call.
Roll call, Field,
Yes.
Heiser,
I don't know what I'm voting on. There was too much paper rustling.
Sorry, Ray. Don't put it for me next time.
say yes. Yes, and Marson. Yeah, thank you.